Good. Well, I know there's a lot of excitement around the game, more excitement probably what I'm going to talk about. But, more than anything, I knew you guys would be here for the game, and I thought it'd be efficient for both of us to address a number of issues. So I thought if I could hit them now. I'm going to be traveling next week with the women's team to Connecticut, and then we got the ACC-AD meeting. So there's just been a variety of questions that have come in to Kenny and I, and we just said, why don't we go ahead and just hit some of these right now and get some updates. First and foremost, there's not an update on the NCAA. I think so. I know everybody's hypersensitive when we call press conferences these days, but these are going to happen routinely as long as I'm around. That we'll do some updates. But there's nothing to report there, and surely you guys will know as soon as we know. We'll get the notice. We'll have a 24-hour period to turn something around, and then we'll get to that topic. So I think that's one of the things that we're as excited as you guys to hear something. When it happens, it happens. But I'm not spending a whole lot of my day worrying about when it's going to come. Second thing is, yesterday we had our football signing class. It was, it's a little bit of the anticlimactic because the new signing period in December, and then you got the one coming up here in February. We signed a few kids. We're happy to get, obviously, Jerry Sprintz, the local one, on that class, and it turned out to be a terrific class, one of the best. But I didn't say a whole lot about that as I was running down here to the women's game last night. But it was fun to hear about the players. We're excited about the quality of the class. I think it filled the needs. We got a lot of big boys on the defense line to go with the offense line that we picked up last year. And more importantly, on that topic is less about the players that we signed, was more about how it happened and what's going on in the football complex. So I know we've talked a lot about the stadium expansion, and everybody seems focused on the seat count. The kids that are coming in here that are looking at our facilities are really focused on the football complex. So they're looking at the Traeger, they're looking at the weight training, they're looking at the training room, and a variety of things. When I sit through these weekends with the recruits and their families, they're more focused on the whole package. They're looking at the training complex and the whole football complex, but certainly with the Thornton's Academic Center and the housing that the university's invested in, I think it's led to the quality of the players that we've got this year, and hopefully will in the future when this thing's complete. The other thing, just for a little clarity, I've seen in some of the notes that have been out there about the expansion being 10,000 seats. Just to clarify that, it's not 10,000 seats. It's closer to 6,000 seats. It's the way the end zone expansion was designed was about this fan engagement, fan experience. I think you've heard about players walking through the live crowd down below, coming through the suites, and the success we've had in selling those suites, the club seats, premium seats, and then the Adidas three-stripe zone has been terrific. Nearly sold out across the board on all of those 4 spots. And we're excited about that. So if there's a question about there was 10,000 originally, it was, I don't know what the original plan was. I know it was spoken that maybe it was thought of, but that's where our seat count is. We're doing the RFP now, and we'll know exactly the seat count if you're going to zone in on that. But the other offshoot of that is that's where the financials were budgeted from and run from, is that seat count, not 10,000. So just a little clarity on that topic, as I've had the opportunity to dig in further on the due diligence there. So we're going to continue to push on fan experience in the stadium. We're going to continue to push it here. We've only got a few home games left in the basketball side, but we really have ramped up a number of things we've been doing marketing-wise, and some of this grassroots marketing. We'll continue to do that going forward, with obviously a focus on the point is the students and how we get them engaged, and if we have to teach them cheers and bring them down here with school buses, what do we have to do just to find the right balance with the students and what they have available to them today to watch and be a fan as much as you are, as much as our fans in the seats and our donors. So, we'll work on all that as well. Last topic on the football is there's been some questions around the nepotism policy. There is a university nepotism policy that was passed. There's also the opportunity to have an exception report put in on those if you so choose to go that path. We have done that. Ryan Beard, as you guys know, was the last assistant that was placed. He was on the staff and then tagged as the 10th assistant, and that exception policy has been submitted to HR. There was a delay because you guys are well aware that we had an organizational change last Friday, but it has been placed. I have signed that, and that's something that Bobby and I have talked about openly about that. We all know there's sensitivity around it, and making sure that there's not double standards, and then we get into those things and just properly manage it from there. And that's a communication that I have directly with the coaches as much as with Bobby himself. Jumping back to last Friday, I know you're aware that we had an organizational change in the department. I've spent quite a bit of time over the last 4 months looking at how things operate elsewhere, across the other collegiate campuses and athletic departments. Spend time questioning folks at the ACC, NCAA, doing my own research on positions, what the right structure is to be those famous words, effective and efficient. And we did make changes on Friday to accomplish just that. The first, really my focus has been since the day I got here and get this organization wrapped around it is the student-athlete experience first. And having been one of those, I get it, and that's where we're trying to focus on that. We think about the head and the body of the athlete, making sure their mental and performance side of it is in check, as well as strength and conditioning, sports medicine, and nutrition. We had those areas reporting up to 3 different individuals in the senior staff, broken out 3 different ways, none of them with a medical background. And that's the direction we're going. Is we have one of the positions that's created out of this is an associate AD of student health and wellness, and it's to focus on just that. In this environment, whether you see it professionally or collegiately, these are our thoroughbreds. And we have a significant investment in facilities and people and staff, dollars behind them to keep them healthy both in the head and in the body. So that's where I'm focused and have been focused since day one. That hasn't changed. So when we talk about, where those things are, that's where we'll be. We obviously moved some things around on sport management. We've taken that away from the CFO position and from fundraising. Those will move into other positions, and we'll no longer have sports management in the financial area or in fundraising. So we've consolidated some of that, and then we're adding a position that's associate AD of administration, and that'll take on the HR as well as the legal contracts, student conduct that Christine Simatoklis has had in the past, and dealing with Title IX as well. So there are things that we had to accordion because Kevin Miller's retirement came about. He carried a heck of a load here in a variety of ways with sport management and finance. And then Christine Simatoklis, who's a terrific talent, had a number of responsibilities as well. And we've divided up those and put things in better places, if you will, created a structure that, that I could talk more detail, but won't today. But again, this was more focused around about the student-athlete experience. That's the front of where it is. We're the stewards of that as the athletic department. It's not the other way around. With the changes, it's certainly going to come efficiencies. And, we're looking at cost savings because we should. It's the right thing to do and being more efficient and where we should invest dollars properly. I'm sure your first thing is going to be, well, is this related to donors and so forth? It's about creating the right size organization that we need to run the department. And with that said, I've done research even on my own position and how other ADs are paid in the conference. I looked at the top 3 and how they're paid and took the average of those top 3. It comes out to $854,000. So yesterday I put through a salary reduction to myself to $850,000. So historically, what I'm looking for is $1 million of savings out of the AD office from budget year to budget year, with $500,000 of that coming from the salary and $500,000 coming from third parties that we don't need to utilize going forward. So with that, we're trying to set the tone is to tighten things up and use that $1 million to, again, protect the student-athlete experience. Should there be shortcomings in any way, I don't want anything to change on behalf of how we recruit our athletes and how we pay these coaches. We got high-performing sports programs. We're going to keep the top coaches in there. We're going to pay them to market. And in the same vein, I should be the same as long as I'm in here, and whoever comes in the permanent position should be the same. The donor temperature, I know there's, you get that brought up quite a bit. It's a small but mighty voice. You certainly got noise out there, but I'm meeting with groups between 30 and 50 before most home games and talking to them directly. It's a grassroots effort. I go to offices of some of our larger donors and run to the fire in terms of dealing with any issues they may have and giving them the vision of what I believe our athletic department should support and what we're doing here. Today, when I'm done with this press conference, I'll be meeting with a group from the GLI, the Great Louisville Inc., of probably 150 leaders in the community, telling them what's going on as well and what we're up to at the athletic department. And we'll continue to get that voice out there that's proper and articulating what we think is best as an athletic department team, not just me individually, and keep going on that front. We've got terrific fans. I mean, that's the one thing about this, and you see it whether they're a ticket holder or a donor or both. They're passionate, and you're going to hear the noise from them, good or bad. And that's the thing I love about this. It's the greatest part about growing up in this community is how passionate these fans are about our sports programs. I'm one of them, and I have to hold back myself when I'm on the road games. And Bob Valvano sitting in the audience knows that. I'll pound the table or yell or what have you when I'm out there. I get into these games, and there's another, tens of thousands out there that follow us in the football stadiums and the soccer stadium and whatever sport they choose to support. Basketball tonight, and they're passionate. We're fortunate to have them around, and we'll take care of them. And it's up to us to articulate that and get that out to them to what's going on. And so they're comfortable that we are being just that, good stewards of the student athletic experience here. With that being said, last Thursday, I felt like one of the things that got kind of passed over was the approval of contracts with two of them are extensions and one's a renewal. Danny Busboom Kelly, certainly she had a terrific year. We extended her contract another year, put it on the hard to say this, but on her season year. It was a contract that ending in June. We extended to the end of December while giving her a bump as well and putting some incentives in there for her to excel as our head coach and be here hopefully a long, long time. She's done a terrific job, and the kids have really performed well for her and appreciate her as their head coach. And recruiting-wise, she's doing terrific. Karen Ferguson Days, again, we've extended her out a couple years. She had 3 years left on her contract. We bumped it up to 5 years. She's excited to be here. The sport of soccer is growing, not just in men, but in women's. And again, I'm highly supportive of Karen and excited that we got that extension in place. And then the last one is Ken Lola. His resume is terrific, as you guys know, from Elite Eight performances to College Cup. And his contract expired in December. When I got here, it was one of the things I was, found that it was expiring in December and had not been extended or renewed. We consider the best college coach in soccer out there. He and I spoke openly about that during the season, decided to address it after the season, and we got approval of that last Thursday as well for a 5-year extension with him. So we're excited to have Ken running this program for another 5 years and hopefully longer, and expect equal and better results out of him. He's got great talent once again. So those are the highlights. Those are the questions I've been hearing from the group. And again, in the spirit of efficiency here, we knew that most of you would be here tonight, so I'd ask Kenny, let's pull this together and just give an update on a handful of topics. I'm sorry to spook you into thinking this might be the NCAA press conference, and there's plenty of other probably more important news around our team and the game tonight. But I'm happy to take a few questions before I go speak to this group.
Vince, you're 2 months from the spring signing.
Yeah, David, right now David's recruiting like any other coach would, and the coaching staff is doing that as well. You can probably look around the arena and you'll see the recruits around here. You might notice they're particularly large. But I think, April 11th is the signing date. We're going to have those kids around here. We're talking about wearing the jersey that says Louisville as much as for who they're playing for, meaning the head coach. But I think the recruits, when I talk to them and talk to their families, it's about what's going on in the athletic department. And they certainly have faith and keep us in the mix because they know whether it's David or whether another coach that we're not going backwards. We're going forward, and our expectations for the program hasn't changed.
What's your timetable for figuring out a more stable situation for that? Because his deal end in April? How does that work?
No, David's deal was a year-long contract, so it would actually run through to next October. So he was in a contract year, full year, so it'll run past the end of the season. When the season gets to a point, gets to an end, David and I will sit down and talk more specifically about that. I don't want to distract him with that. We've been on a run here. The team needs his focus, as does the staff. So there's a better time than now to do that.
As far as the restructuring right now, who is in charge of things under you right now? Have you hired anybody new or appointed anybody to those new spots?
No, well, right now the ones that when Kevin Miller resigned, retired, I should say. We had his retirement party today, which was a lot of fun, good roast. We took Jeff Spelker in the finance area, stepped up and has taken more responsibility there. I mean, he's been with the university for a long time. I think he spent 10 years on the budgeting side of the university before he moved over to athletics. With his background in finance and budgeting, understand exactly how the university works. It's been beneficial to athletics. On the HR side, since we're combining it with other opportunities in legal contract, student conduct, that's something we'll recruit for. And then we're going to leverage the university's HR, and they've tagged a couple people now that'll be specific and dedicated to the athletic department. So we should be leveraging their resources as much as we can.
Vince, when the restructuring happened on Friday, Tom Jurich's PR company, Boxcar PR, said it was retaliation is the word they use for Tom no longer having the job. I guess, what is your reaction to those words?
Yeah, I think my reaction is what I just gave you in my update. There's Mark and I are close friends. That's not an easy one, but I'm trying to do what's best for the athletic department and the university, so I got to put that aside. It may seem like a cold act on one end, but it's far from retaliation. It's for what's best for the student-athlete experience and what we're trying to get done, and we're no longer going to have sport management and fundraising.
What is your financial situation right now? If you take stock of your assets, are you behind? There's a number that's the budget. Where do you stand compared to the budget?
Yeah, well, there's a budget, and then there's where we are actually. I think I'm more concerned with where we are actually. The budget is behind on basketball revenue. We reported last week that it was down about $2.8 million versus where we thought it would be. We're going to have a little bit of catch up in January because it was probably a conservative forecast related to single game ticket sales. But in general, the budget is fine. I mean, Jeff and I have looked at it in terms of whether we're going to balance out this year and so forth. We've made cuts. We certainly have a difference in salary coming from the head basketball coach and as you hear now, coming from the AD's office. We've already cut some of these expenses and that in the AD office and elsewhere in the department that I felt was different. We looked at the bowl different on how we looked at charters and a variety of things. We're going through every line item, but we're in good shape.
Down 3 or 4%, or what do you think your revenue's down?
Yeah, that's about in that range because our budget generally call it plus or minus 105 million is where it usually runs, and that's about right.
Back to the basketball recruiting for a second. First of all, have you and your superiors talked about a timeline as to when either you or someone else in your position will be made permanent? And secondly, if you are still an interim AD, will you feel comfortable and have the authority to hire a coach permanently for basketball? It would seem to me very difficult to recruit when you can't tell a kid who's going to be his coach next year. So, lastly, and I apologize.
I'll remember them all.
Do you hope to have a permanent coach named by April 11th?
Let me go back to the first part. It was in last week's EULA board meeting, Dr. Postal made it clear who was on the search committee, or should make it clear the timeline for the search committee, and talking about getting a search firm in place in their meeting, I believe February 13th. The idea is that they would have an expedited process and try to have the AD named by the end of March, and that's a quick run at it for sure. So that's a timeline. The second part of it, obviously we're aware when the signing date is and how that falls with the Final Four and March Madness and all things going on. Am I comfortable making that decision? I'd say yes. Would I make that decision? I'd say yes. I haven't worried about the interim or acting tag or whatever it is at this point. When you get into these positions and you're going to take over a role, you can't get caught up in whether you're carrying an acting interim. You have to make decisions and what you think is best on behalf of the department. Much like decisions on Friday, I'd make the same on the basketball coach.
Between the salary cut you self-imposed and the 3 changes you made, I'm guessing you're probably cut by about $1 million in salary. Do you expect to hire into that, or is that a goal to maintain that level?
No, I think that there would be. You're probably jumping ahead on. I know what my cut is. That's clear to me. And in terms of what we're doing at the AD's office, in terms of the senior roles, I think it depends on what we fill back in. We have a deputy AD position, which will be the operations portion of Kevin Miller's role that we'll need to fill. The associate AD, which will take over effectively the HR and other responsibilities. The associate AD of student health and wellness will fill. We've already backfilled on the fundraising side with current talent. But in net, there'll be savings. But you know, depending on what type of talent and their experience would you know, we'll find out what the difference in the spread is. There's definitely going to be savings.
After restructuring, who is leading that fundraising effort?
Michael Dudas, who was our assistant AD in fundraising, has stepped in that role. We have a great staff. They've been here a while. I've fortunately got to work with a lot of them before I got here, including Michael. He's handled capital gifts, done a number of things, worked with a variety of our corporate people as well as our larger donors, and we will backfill inside that, but at a lower level to add bandwidth.
Is he overseeing the stadium expansion as well?
No, the stadium expansion is inside the operations side. Jeff Spelker, Michael Ortman on our operations side has really been the point man on that to begin with, and obviously I've been more involved in it in the last 30 days.
On the minority piece, the opportunities, we understand the nepotism policy and the situation with the football program. What are you all putting in place for opportunities for our minorities in the athletic program?
Yeah, there is diversity programs that are in place. We obviously have people in Christine Simatopoulos and myself been getting involved with the diversity side, as well as Marvin Mitchell from our academic side. So if anything, just ramping up our activity in that side.
Did you have any trepidation making dismissals as an interim AD?
No.
Why is that?
Because I've done this before, and you do what's right for the business. You don't worry about the emotions attached.
When you inherited the job or took the job versus now, it's been a steep learning curve. What have you learned? What are the biggest challenges that you've seen and or lay ahead to you?
Well, you know, certainly, you know, when you get in here, the donor unrest, because it's hard to articulate all the good things that are going on amongst all the noise. And I think that I'm not panicked by that at all. I mean, it's a time issue, and getting it out there and taking the time, and you know, people talking about, hey, I'm going to drop my tickets and so forth. It's educating them about the student athletes and why we're here and what we try to do, even with my own donor dollars. And I've been in the student athlete shoes, and what I'm trying to assure them is we're not going to disrupt their student athlete experience while they're here. They're going to have a great experience. They're going to be proud to wear the Louisville gear. They're going to be proud to be a part of these teams and have these terrific coaches, and that's what we're here to protect. And there's plenty of donors out there that help support that cause. You may hear of some leaving, and you'll hear about some coming, but I'm not in here trumpeting every time we add a new donor or someone steps in and says, I'm happy to help support this cause, even while there may be a smaller voice. We got to give them the right information.
How have you tried to develop relationships with some of the other coaches with all the changes? You talked about the staff changes, but how have you tried to reinforce and maybe allay some of the concerns with some of the other coaches?
Communication. I meet with them often. I meet with them. I talk to them at any time of the day. They call me on the weekends. I meet as a group. We bring them all together like we did in the auditorium this week. It's not the first time to have a full head coaches meeting, and I carry the agenda. So it's engaging with them, being in it, be involved in hands-on, and I do one-on-one meetings. I sat with Dan McDonald today for an hour, going through where his issues are, and we just go coach to coach.
Time for maybe one more. Anybody?
Vince, you were, a minute ago, I think you said that you had challenged the staff to get on board or move along. Do you think there's still a residual loyalty to Tom that you're fighting?
I don't know. I don't ask them whether it's Tom or whatever the issue is. It's just if there's something that they're not supportive of, I'm happy to talk with any of them one-on-one. My door's wide open. I meet with employees at a variety of times. If they're willing to get there early in the morning or stay late at night, I'll meet with anybody no matter what level they're at. But I don't know that it's tied to any one individual. I've been clear that this department's greater than any one man.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.